what is death? What is death according to this passage?
The absence of God. Of being able to talk to God, having God around.
Well, God's still around.
Well, He's around, but you separate yourself. You've been separated from Him.
Right, and what caused the separation?
Sin.
Disobedience. Death, I would say that disobedience equals death. And the result of disobedience is separation. Is that what death is to us? If that's what death would be to us, then disobedience would be a lot, that would be severe. And I think our definitions of death and life are not really in line with God. And I think that's one way that you can show.
What definition were you saying?
I'd say death is disobedience. Because if you eat of it, you'll die.
I think death is the result of disobedience.
Well, they're kind of one and the same, because once you do it.
But now it's just kind of built into the system because we all have a sin nature, so.
Okay, so that's one of the differences. What's one of the differences between who they were? When they were created, they had this absolute connection with God.
It's the culmination of this.
And when we're created, when we're walking on the earth, how is it for us? We don't have this absolute connection with God. There's a big difference, isn't there? They were in the perfect environment, absolutely connected with God and each other. When we grow up, before Jesus, we're major disconnected. The best anchovies in the world, put them right up here. They can be speaking to me. Eat me! Open thy can! Jump in! I want to jump into your mouth.
Food bank.
I'm gonna give it
Not on my pizza.
You know what? I can say no pretty easily to that because I don't desire it. Temptation has no hold unless there's desire. And the result, this is what James says, the result of temptation and desire. It's like it says, when desire gives birth, it leads to sin. So what actually happens is that temptation is like the man, and desire is like the woman, and temptation comes to us. And they court each other. And they go to bed together. And what gives birth is sin that comes out of that. There was this courting process that the enemy had with the woman for quite some time. I'm not sure how long that happened. How many know you just don't all of a sudden fall into sin?
Yes, stages.
There's the courting process. And it just takes us along the road. Our problem isn't temptation. The biggest problems that we have to face are our desires. And that the enemy wants to turn it. Our desires, we're desiring the right thing. This is what the man said. Adam, where are you? I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. And he says, who told you that you were naked? There's a nice question. Second question in the Bible that God asked me, who told you this? And then he asked the third question, have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? The man says, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it. Two things. It was the woman, and you gave that woman to me. How could you do this, God? What are you thinking, Glenda?
Always blames the woman.
The woman you
Now you know
gave
where it
me!
comes
Always
from.
our
The
fault.
woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit. Then the Lord said to the woman, what is this you have done? And what did the woman say? The serpent deceived me, and I ate what? The devil, that's right. It's all the way. You notice there's a slippery slope. Reminds me when I was just, we were early on in our marriage. John was 1 to 2 years old. Up to this point, I don't think I ever disciplined him by saying no to anything. He's just a little boy. Benita was having supper. She had peas in this microwave. There was a microwave stand. And lo and behold, he could look up at the microwave, and he knew the button to push and turn it off. And she's having the peas in there, and they're cooking up, and she's eating the peas, and he turns it off. And then he runs around, laughs a little bit, you know. About after the sixth time, it didn't seem as funny anymore. And so he put his hand over there to turn it off again. And I put my hand down. Just put your hand. I just went like this. It was just that hard. And instantly, tears just welled up in his eyes. He's never experienced that from me before. And then the next thing he did is that he ran to me. And that broke me. I said, God, that's what I want to you. When I know that I turn, do something that you don't want, I want to run to you. I said, it just struck me. I wonder how history would have changed if the man and the woman after they realized what they did, if they would have ran to God. God, we messed up. God. I'm so sorry. I wonder what God would have done. I wonder what would have, anything would have changed. It was the woman you put me. It was the woman that you gave me. That's why I did it. It was the serpent. So then the Lord God told the serpent, you're going to be cursed the rest of your life. You're going to walk around on your belly for the rest of your life. And I'm going to put this, he uses the word enmity, this, between you and the woman. Things aren't going to be good between you and the woman. Because out of the woman will come, what came out of Mary's woman was Jesus. The seed of the woman. The seed of the woman. Because there's no seed in a woman, right? It was a virgin birth. He says, but out of the seed of the woman is going to bruise your head. And you're going to, is going to wound your head, and you're going to bruise his heel. And we know that the enemy did. But immediately, God talked about redemption from the very beginning. Next, what did he tell the woman?
It's hard for you to bear children.
You're going to bear children with pain. And you will have a desire for your husband, and what? He will rule over you. How many know that the rule over you thing is part of the curse? I think a lot of Christianity is based out of the curse. Because originally, that wasn't God's intent. Originally, back in Genesis chapter 2, he told the man and the woman, I want you to rule together. How many know this? I want you to rule together over the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. And when Jesus came, he says there's neither male nor female. And he wants us, he's through Jesus is restoring humanity to Genesis chapter 2 again. That's what Jesus is trying to do. But it's interesting, the consequence that he lays on the woman has to do with relationships. How many know that that's what make women click? Are relationships. And relationships are going to cause you the most pain. That's what God says. When you're not following me, your relationships are going to cause you tremendous pain. That's the consequence of not following me. Because oftentimes women want to find their worth through relationships, their children, and their husband. Then he told the man what?
The earth is cursed because of you.
The earth is cursed. It's going to produce thorns and thistles, and you're going to have to work from the sweat of your brow all the days of your life. Oftentimes men get their worth through work. And so God says, when you ain't following me, you're not going to get pleasure from your work. Your work will not give you it. God is trying to give consequences that actually fit people. It's very interesting. And then it goes down. Then Adam named his wife. I thought he named his wife before, didn't he? Yeah, he did. What did he call her?
Woman.
Because he just came out of man. Now, he's distancing himself from his wife even further. How many know that when you start naming things and calling each other names, and what does Eve mean?
Mother of the living, of all the living.
You're not going to be my woman anymore. You're going to be the baby maker. You're going to be the mother of the living. He's distancing himself, naming. He's naming. When we start naming things and naming people, we limit them, and this is who they are, and this is what their role is. Hello. And then here is redemption. The Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. Where did God get skin from?
He sacrificed an animal.
George and Alice. Cows or deer.
God went out and killed something. God went out and killed something. if he didn't do that, I think he would have had to die. So how does God look through? God can deal with us if he looks through the blood. This is a representation of Christ here. God can deal with us if he looks through the blood. There's a consequence for sin. There's punishment. So God went out and killed some animals, made them their own personal wardrobe or something. It is my belief that many, and probably most Christ followers, have accepted the fall of man as the normative reality of life. I think that's a lot of Christianity does not go back to what really God intended. And I think that's what Jesus wants us to do. Because he redeemed us from the curse of the law. Christ took away, redeemed us, and brought our freedom. And bought our freedom from the curse that the law put on us. And there was only one law. Don't eat from that tree, right? He changed places with us and put himself under that curse by becoming a curse for us. Because it's written in the Scriptures, anyone whose body is displayed, who is hung on a tree, is cursed. Jesus became the curse so that we don't have to live under the curse. We don't have to live under Genesis chapter 3 anymore. Let's say this together in the message. This is from Hebrews 10:14. It was a perfect sacrifice by a perfect person to perfect some very imperfect people. By that single offering, he did everything that needed to be done for everyone who takes part in the purifying process. Okay, Jesus was the perfect man. And he did that so that we could become perfect. As it says here in the Amplified, for by one offering he has perfected forever and completely cleansed those who are being sanctified, bringing each believer to spiritual completion and maturity. The idea here is that God can actually redeem us so that we don't have to live under this life of posturing. Because I think we live under a lot of excuses. I'm only human. And I think we don't pursue God. We don't pursue it. And so what happens is that, like, who's the gal's name? And who's got the, what's her? Lindsay. We can't really give Lindsay hope. If we don't have a God who can really heal, if we don't have a God who can really deliver, if we don't have a God that can really work in somebody's life, Lindsay doesn't have any hope. What are we going to do? Well, that's just the way it is. Let's just hold hands and kumbaya. And I think a lot of us just don't know. We kind of live in a place where, yeah, we believe in God, but what do you know? And so what happens then is that we are not. That's not why Jesus came. He died on the cross and said, what? What's the last word that he said on the cross?
It's finished.
Yeah, he didn't say to be continued. That's how we live. Well, it's not quite. Our basic need in life is intimacy and integrity. That's what the garden had. The man and the woman, before the fall, had intimacy with God and with each other. And they had integrity. Everything was integrated in their life. As soon as sin entered, what happened? splitting off with inside themselves. There was a split between them and God. There was a split between them and each other. There was no integrity anymore. There was no intimacy anymore. God has provided this through Jesus. Satan's plan always leads us down cheap and deceptive paths that bring separation, division, and false intimacy. This is provided in Jesus. Jesus freed us from the Genesis 3 curse that came upon humanity when the man and the woman in the garden disobeyed God. Scientific studies on the consequences of secrets. This is interesting. The Bible has a lot to say about confession of sin, being real with one another. Harboring deep and painful secrets is damaging, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. An article in Psychology Today highlights these studies that have backed up this view. A pioneering study in the 70s by the University of Texas at Austin found that people who had traumatic sexual experience as a child or a teen were more likely to have health problems as they got older, particularly if they had hidden the trauma from others. A wealth of studies from the 80s has led to the general conclusion that secret keepers are more likely to suffer from headaches, nausea, back pain, for instance, and hypertension, flu, cancer occur among those that hide trauma. Other research has uncovered more harmful data. Dale Larson of Santa Clara University did a meta-analysis and found that secretive people are more depressed, shame-prone, anxious, sensitive to judgment, which makes them both tight-lipped and vulnerable to illness. Denial, rationalizing, minimizing fears, pain, addiction is common among those who keep secrets. Clinical psychologist Nando Palooza writes, self-deception is just an artful distraction from solving the problem. How do you like that? Self-deception is an artful distraction from solving the problem. By not dealing with it, we can sweep it under the rug. At least that's what we think. That becomes a temporary way to feel better, but it's not lasting. If Jesus freed us from the curse of the law, what does this mean for our relationships and life on earth? And how do we get out of hiding and become children of light? How does that happen?